again, let's start where the money is, because money talks.
Yeah.
And what are the different ways and the revenue streams in which that house builders make their money, and how would they have been surviving during the lockdown?
Essentially, we look at things in different, almost like in different pots. You look at what are we currently doing? So what are the risks for us in the next year? And they will be very much focused at the current time on COVID and lockdown. And lockdown being the issue for them. I mean, how can we get our construction carried through in the normal program? How is it going to impact on our suppliers and our subcontractors? And what does that do to the costs of what we're trying to deliver on one hand? And on the other hand, what is it doing to sales values? I mean, it's pretty basic economics. It's value and costs. But you keep your team focused on what it's doing on a day-to-day basis. But at the same time, you've got to be looking at the immediate strategic decision making. And certainly where I was involved in legals, planning and the delivery side, you're thinking about what do I need to put into planning now to get a planning consent in the next, let's say it does take you 1 to 2 years on some of these big schemes, but I need to get that planning in place so that I can then start building up my detailed design and cost plans so that that scheme is going to be on site in 3 years' time. So I'm looking at my day-to-day, then I'm looking at my 3-year, and then I'm looking at my 7 to 10-year business plan. Because you've got to think about, if it takes me 3 years to get on site, I'm very quickly going to run out of land or I'm going to run out of projects. So those are the sort of 3 different stages.
Tell us a bit about the P&L and operating costs.
The small builder is looking at what I said, if you like, the first 2 stages. One is I'm on site, how do I make sure I can turn that into a profit? And then they're also looking at, well, when this project comes to an end, what's my next project? How do I make money there? And how do I keep my employees on site and actually paid? So that's the smaller build. The larger development companies like Berkeley, I mean, if I just said Berkeley, it's a Berkeley Group. They have a substantial cash within the company. So they actually don't need to borrow monies from any exterior or external sources to deliver the sort of schemes that I'm talking about. But what you are continually reviewing is your cash flow. So you tend to look at what you're putting into production and how the sales are going. So cash flow is a big issue for the larger developers, and particularly those that are borrowing money, because banks do want it to be repaid. And in the last crash we had in 2009, that was the big problem that most of the large house builders had, is that they'd over borrowed. And therefore the banks were looking to, and some of them got into serious trouble. So a lot of those large house builders now have created a new business model that has cash within the company. So they are not so reliant on the, I wouldn't say the whims of the banks, but it certainly felt like that last time.